Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast with your hosts, Jody Rosko and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time. Welcome back to the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast. I'm Jody Rosko.
I'm Heather Fisher.
And today we are going to talk about different downsizing styles. We find that people have different ways of handling it, and I think it's helpful to know what those are.
Yeah, I think that some people are frustrated if they look at how easily it went for, a friend or someone that they feel is way more ahead down the road or handling it differently. There's frustration in that. So we're going to talk about how it might just come down to your particular downsizing style, what emotions and personality traits might be around that, and the strengths of each one, and how to overcome the hurdles around each one. So we'll talk about that.
So it's not like a good or bad thing. It's just kind of a knowing yourself and maybe knowing your partner, because or your kids or whoever else is helping, because often people who are doing this together don't have the same style, and so just knowing can help.
Reminds me of Strength Finder's book that we've done in professional settings, and it gives you the whole gamut of personality attributes, and none are good or bad. It's just, here's what you have, and here's the way to make the most of that. Here's the way you might want to shift your mindset a little bit, and how to deal with someone else, which I think ties into an episode we did a few weeks ago on the couples. So you may see your partner in some of these styles and catch some tips on how to continue interacting well with someone of a different style than you.
So it's breaking down into 5 different common downsizing personalities. So we're going to tell you what all those are, how you spot your own tendencies, what your mindset could be around each of these, some tips around your mindset, and then why understanding this approach can help reduce conflict and overwhelm. So
when we were gathering our notes, I definitely noted one or two that I lean towards myself.
It might be more than one. I was also thinking that too. Like, it might be more than one, but really they're very different, some of them. And so So first of all, why does it matter? I think it's super frustrating when you are processing something in a certain way, and the people that you are with are not processing it in the same way, and you aren't really looking at what that looks like. You're just kind of trying to get your part done, and so tons of frustration, I think, can happen through it.
Yeah, and you may just be feeling like you're at a roadblock, and it really is just approaching it a different way might be all you need to, start easing down the road, with no problems.
So knowing can reduce frustration. It can build empathy. Yeah. Because you can understand, hey, this is how they're probably feeling about this, and whether you agree with that and that's your style or not, you can empathize with how they're feeling and kind of figure out how you can come to common ground from those things.
Yeah, and work with your own personality for the most success. It's like, a night owl planning a new, 20-step morning habit that starts at 4 a.m. That's not going to work for them, or just trying to go against the grain for something that someone says, oh, you can do this with just 5 minutes a day. Well, pick that right style that you'll actually do, and will get you through it.
Yep. So as we go through these, think about which one sounds like you or someone in your life who's helping you downsize or downsizing with you. So number 1, the Sentimental Saver.
Okay.
This was my mom.
Yeah. I know lots of people like this. We meet lots of clients like this. So let's just go down the list, then we can talk about it. But the core traits of a sentimental saver, they keep items for emotional reasons. So they're the ones that are wanting to keep every photo, every heirloom, every souvenir.
Everything that grandma had.
Yeah, kids' art. all of the things for sentimental reasons. So they're overloaded and not sure of a way to move forward with that. The strengths of the character strengths of someone like this, they are a huge valuer of family history. They're memory rich. They're deeply reflective. Those are all amazing things. But the challenges that it brings up is the struggle to part with even small or broken items if they have any sentimental reach. So just holding too much and probably honestly not honoring much of it at all.
I think that explains my mom specifically. Like, she loved family. She loved history. And so if she could see the history in something, even if it wasn't our family's history, she wanted to keep it because she just felt like there was value in history. And we had china that had broken things, and she wanted to, put them back together. And all of that is totally fine, as long as you have space for whatever that is, and you are keeping things that actually are important to you. Because I think that this personality just tends to keep more.
Yeah, I think this personality is so wonderful in the sense that they're usually the person that works the hardest to have family traditions continue. And I know with your mom, you've told the story, but just like, well, Christmas looks like this, and and that provides that sentimentality and that tradition for so many people. So it's such a wonderful quality. They're the person providing that story in real living color.
Yeah.
On the Christmas table with all the china or all of the ornaments or all of those things. It just switches, crosses that fine line if all of that is then burdening that person.
Which I think also did end up happening with my mom. And so I think there's a couple of tips to help if this is your personality or you're working with somebody with this personality. I think that some of it is writing down the stories or recording the stories, because if the things have stories, the stories are the most important things, right? The stuff is just stuff until it has a story around it. And then if this is your personality, evaluating whether that story is an important enough story to keep it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, or even, kids' art, let's say. You can pick the best pieces of kids' art, and you could have 10 pieces of art over their life, as a child but they bring home something every day, and they scribble, pictures every day. And so I was talking to Mary Allison, who is somebody that's on our team, and she was saying she just throws all of it out, and she feels bad about it, but she's a different style. We'll get to her style.
Yeah.
But if you're the keeper of it, then keep the really good ones, the ones that you would want to frame. I literally have a picture that Ryan drew when he was little that I framed. That's a winter red bird, and I love it. And so if it's that good to you or that memorable to you, keep it. But there's probably only like 10 pieces or less of that. And it doesn't have to be the bulk of it. I think that's where my mom got stuck, was she just didn't make decisions around the bulk of it. And then it all became too much bulk, right? So that's amazing. Keep it, keep the history, keep the stories, and then somehow allow yourself to filter it through the things that are most important.
I think the word curate is such a great word, that whether it's, a memory box or a scrapbook or a journal or any way where you're reducing but keeping the most important things, when you've curated that, then you're not stressed by the memories. You're just able to enjoy them over and over again.
Right.
So
and if it's in boxes and stuffed places, which was what ended up happening with my mom, you're not enjoying it. Like, you're keeping it, but you're not enjoying it. And so what can you do to do that? Create a memory box that's, like you said, curated, or scrapbooks that are curated with only the best pictures.
Yeah.
Capture stories through video or writing them down, journaling. Keep a legacy shelf with intentional favorite things where you display just specific things.
And I think if you're helping someone with this personality style, it's so important to have that patience, if it's not you, to help them curate and honor that having some in a well chosen way is important, and not throw everything out.
And the only way that this style of downsizing works for people that are savers is to tell the story and let them hear it themselves, to let them decide whether it's important enough to keep it. So there's lots of listening to stories with this style.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's a big change coming, like physical space, moving to another place, make sure you help or choose for yourself a way to bring just a small piece that you'll see every day of that very most important thing, and have it out where you're feeling a little more calm because you have that, what reminds you of what you loved.
When we did that book, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff, he talked about legacy boxes a lot. That's a great book if you are interested in going deeper into that. But he said to kind of just take the essence of what that person was, like what they would want to be remembered for, whether that's you or whether that's somebody, stuff that you're keeping, your kids, or whatever that is, and take that essence and then just like keep those things. And so if you're struggling, like, how do I pick? That's a great way. Like, my grandma cooked for us, that was so important to her, so some of that stuff would be important, as a legacy thing, but not everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we move on to number 2? So number 2, the someday keeper, holding on to things because one day there might be a use for it.
Mm-hmm. My mom had a little bit of this. She was definitely the most of the sentimental saver. I think there was a little bit of someday keeper in her, and we see a lot of this. They're resourceful, they're frugal, they don't like to waste things. They have difficulty letting go of duplicates or unused tools, clothes, you name it, just because it still has life left in it. And they think, they might need it someday. Like they just might need it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this personality trait, it comes from fear. It really, I think a lot of it comes from people who have been without.
Yeah.
Or if their parents had been without. And those are things that just get passed down from your parents, or things that you've learned, or things that you learn on your own if you've been without, that it feels like, oh my gosh, I might not be able to get this again.
Right.
If I let go of it now.
Right. And there's, when that's just a small bit, that's okay. You're prepared, whatever. It's okay. You have
lots of batteries.
Some extra batteries and things like that. But when it becomes just item over item, and you can't even remember what you have, or for it to be useful, a lot would have to happen. I think about you telling us about your grandpa saving, the cords off of a broken lamp or whatever, in case we needed a cord, when you already had, probably
all
hundreds.
The lamps had cords, and everything
all had
already
cords.
has its own
You had
cord.
extension cords. You had that, and then, but that sense of even keeping that, it wouldn't have just been plug and play. From that point, it would have been, well, I'll keep this, but then I need to go to the hardware store and get this or that. And I think we see that a lot where, maybe you have 3 tiles left from a tile job that you don't even have in your house anymore, but maybe I'll need that, and you never will, that mentality.
Yeah, I mean, my grandparents were born in the 20s, so they grew up in the Depression, and so they saved everything. I mean, he used tires and old spark plugs and all kinds of things, and I understand why he did. He always wanted to have canned food in the house just to make sure that everything was going to be. I understand that why all of that is. And so, again, we're not saying to get rid of everything. We're saying that sometimes if you tell yourself, yeah, it has life in it, it's not something that I'm going to use. If you look at it and say, would I need to buy that again? Would I use it so much that I need to buy it again if I got rid of it?
Yeah.
Ask yourself some questions like that. The use of the item doesn't have to be used by you.
Yeah.
It can be used by somebody who needs it today.
Yeah.
And having it in your attic or your basement for the someday maybe really isn't giving it the credence that it needs, like giving its...
yeah. I think the one of the strengths on here that's so important to point out, because it is a strength, is being very resourceful.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true in this category. And so maybe a way to reframe it, because I see often you have someone that's resourceful, so they can see in their mind, what I could do with whatever, fill in the blank that they're saving, but they don't really have the need for that themselves, or don't have another broken whatever. And so maybe reframing it to, how can I be resourceful with this and fix it up or clean it up or repaint it or whatever, and then find that home of something, because
Right.
what we often see are just cluttered garages or attics or basements with all the, well, I could fix that up. And so maybe just shifting to I'm either fixing it up or moving it out.
Yeah, I think we see that with hobby stuff too a lot. People who have done a hobby and then they might go back to it, but they've moved on to another hobby and they've still got all the first hobby stuff. And I think sometimes we see that in their minds, oh, I'll get back to that, or I'll do that, or whatever. And
Yeah.
I think all of downsizing is, you do have to make the decisions. You cannot it's not procrastinating the decisions. So number one, no matter what your style is, you have to make the decisions that are hard for you. And a lot of it is just allowing that to be okay, telling yourself that that's going to be okay.
Yeah. I think avoiding the decisions rolls us nicely into number 3 here.
Yes, the overwhelmed avoider.
Yes. So this is someone who just feels paralyzed by the size of the task. So I think we've talked about that in several ways in several episodes, but just the word or the thought, I need to downsize, is overwhelming. So this is the person that is still sitting in that I need to, but they haven't broken it down into any tasks or chunks or spaces to start with. And so they're just living in the, oh my gosh, this will be so much to do.
I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I know I need to do it.
Yeah.
But it'll be tomorrow.
This is so much to do. Maybe if I do none of it ever, it will get done. It's not the plan.
Yeah. But I think the overwhelmed avoider can be the overlying, trait of some of these other ones too, because of, wanting to keep or wanting to feel, sentimental about things. You do get overwhelmed, like, how could I possibly make these decisions? And so I think the overwhelmed avoider, if you're feeling like you're two of these, everyone's overwhelmed. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you resonate with another one, I think the overwhelmed one is the one that we can maybe help with first, which is just start doing a little bit every day. And just create some habits around what that looks like.
I think that the strengths, we definitely want to talk about that, because it's not all a bad, a bad trait to have. The strengths of this is usually someone that's very thoughtful, and when they do take action, they're very intentional on it. So that is, all good traits. The challenges that they find are that they can get anxious about making the wrong decision, so they make no decision. So I think I totally get that, because I probably fall into this camp strongly, along with another one that we'll get to here soon. But I fall into this camp, and the challenge is that if you stop yourself, if you overthink before you take action and don't take any action, then you get yourself into a time crunch or a crisis crunch where you haven't made any of the decisions because you're overthinking them, but then all of your overthought perfect decisions fall to the wayside because either you're out of time and something needs to happen quicker than you originally had time for, or another crisis makes that, overthought plan that you haven't started on too late, honestly.
Yeah. Another way that this manifests is this is somebody who can make lots of lists and not do the lists. You know? They're getting ready to get ready.
Yes.
And so if that's you, then what you can do is just start 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day. You're just going to do one little section. Do the thing that's irritating you the most.
Yeah.
If there's a pile in a corner in the house somewhere that you've just been walking by for, longer than you want to admit, then tackle that pile. And you'll likely find that it doesn't take more than 15 minutes to do some small area. And that does a couple things. Number one, it will get get the ball rolling. Basically, anything that when we start from static, it's hardest to get it in the beginning. So it will get that moving, get you feeling a little bit excited about it or feeling accomplished. And then if you just continue to do that every day, it will create a habit. And then it will just be a habit that you have. And you'll look around your house and pick up things, without even realizing that you're doing it. And some days that 10, 15 minutes is going to be an hour in your brain. You just don't want to do it, and it just is going to, slog through it. And sometimes you'll get on a roll, and it might be an hour, and you're just, before you know it, you've got a whole little area cleaned up that took a little bit longer. But don't let yourself not slog through it on those days, because what you're really doing is building a habit. So even if you don't feel like it, you're building a habit.
Yeah, don't break the habit. What do they say, 66 days in a row to fully create a habit that you're going to stick with. So
because a habit means that you don't really have to put a lot of brain energy to it, because you're making lots of decisions when you're downsizing, right? And so deciding to even get started is still a decision that you're making. And so once you've created a habit, we don't think about, should I brush my teeth this morning? We just do it, right? Yeah. And so once you've created that habit around cleaning up things, picking up things, sorting things, letting them go maybe you have a specific area in your house where there's a little donate box that you just throw things in when you know that you're not going to use them. You can create habits around that so that it takes a lot less brain energy than it does when you just get started.
Yeah, and I think that you can, we say in our class, start with easy so that you gain some momentum, but maybe what we forget to say is that the momentum continues by day after day, a small, easy thing for that. It's never like, okay, do easy for a couple days and then the big job's coming. You can get to the end of the path by just small chunks day after day and building that habit. It doesn't have to be an overwhelming, week-long purge of everything you own.
Yeah.
If you start early enough.
I was that kid who let my room get so messy that then when I finally had to clean it, it took like 8 hours.
Yes, I also did that many times. and then I'd get like halfway through it and I'd decide I not only need to just like pick up and dust, I have to fully rearrange it, drag everything in the hall, and 10 hours later, I'm like, look at my room. And then the next day, something on the floor. So
same.
Yes.
But I'm not like that now. So we have, we have evolved through our habits to, not have that happen.
That's right. That is not me now, but definitely was as a preteen.
Yeah. So if you're feeling that overwhelmed avoider, Try to do just a little at a time. The other thing you can do is bring in a helper for guidance or moral support, and that person can be somebody that's in your family, or that there are people you can hire to help do that. So if you need resources, reach out to us, downsizingroadmap.com, if you need resources for people who can actually come in and help with that. But sometimes just having somebody come in a little bit to get you started and get your mindset in a different place can really make a big change.
I think especially in this category, they can give you that confidence in your decision making and get rid of some of that, analysis paralysis and just move you forward a little bit so you can build confidence for other pieces.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Definitely.
All right, number 4.
The everything must go purger. They want a clean slate, they move fast, and sometimes emotionally driven.
Yeah. Their strengths are great at taking action and being decisive, but the challenges are that they may regret the choices later or miss some important items because they're just on a tear. So this person is, they're not sitting around feeling overwhelmed. They're like, let's go. Let's just get rid of it all. Let's get rid of it now, today. And a lot of times when we see this in couples, we see them being totally willing to get rid of the other person's stuff.
Of course. It's the easiest.
Today.
You said start with easy, Jody.
So that's a lot of times we see this manifesting out as like, I want all of his or her stuff to be gone.
Yes.
Because we do end up, opposites attract. We have people who are savers and people who are, thrower outers or whatever. And so they're often married. And so the everything must go purger has probably purged their stuff already. And now they're ready for the other person too.
Yes.
So again, thinking about what that other person's personality is like and how you can work together.
Yeah. I think I sit in the overwhelmed avoider category for quite a while, and then suddenly I'm like, this is ridiculous. Let's be an everything must go purger for a couple days and, throw out all my plans and just, thinking about it and just get rid of it all and then think, what did I get rid of?
I think you're actually number 5.
Number 5.
I think you're number 5, but we'll get to number 5.
Yeah.
But I think I also, and maybe it's because of how we were when we were little, but I also am an everything must go purger every once in a while.
Yes.
Like it'll get to a certain level, and then I'm like, that's it.
Yes.
And I want the kids to throw away all their stuff, and I want my husband to throw.
You're a bring everyone along. Everything must go purger
I
at
am.
this moment. So,
but that's not really. I mean, it's fine, in the moment, and if you get a little stuff, but it's not. If I was just more steady about the purging, right? Like I think for this person, if you are more steady about that, back to that habit of just creating, on a daily basis, then it's kind of, this is a build-up thing, I think.
It's an emotional build-up.
Yes.
Like whatever is, not having you do it, and then suddenly it kind of breaks loose, the dam breaks loose, and you're just like, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
And, you get stuff done
right
at that moment, but I think it's the aftermath of that, storm blowing through that might overwhelm, your partner or your kids if it was just like, wait, what happened?
Especially if they're a sentimental saver.
Yeah.
That is super, super stressful
Yeah.
to a sentimental saver. And the other group of people that I see this be is the kids.
Yeah.
When mom and dad need to let go of things and they aren't, and they're holding on and holding on and holding on, and then the frustration from the kids turns into it just needs to go, mom. Like it just all needs to go. And so and they'll get it done.
Yeah.
But again, sometimes some of those things that are emotionally driven might take a hit. And so I think the hardest pairing is this everything must go purger and the sentimental saver.
Yeah.
So
you can leave some unsettled feelings both for yourself or for other people in the family, in the wake of these big purges and letting go of everything. So, some suggestions would be to, just settle back, definitely get rid of the easy stuff that, pantries and linen cloth, get rid of that stuff. But when it comes to the more sentimental heirloom items, slow yourself too, even if you're feeling like I could get rid of all of it. Intentionally, lean into what might not be your personality to be super attached to things, and make sure if you've got, a lot of stuff from your parents' house or your grandparents or stuff of your kids, make sure you don't go 100% purge, keep that memory box, at least a maybe box to think about it until the dust settles.
I think the maybe box works so well if you're working with people, two different personalities, and one wants to get rid of everything and one wants to keep it. Because the maybe box can be for the purger, okay, maybe I shouldn't be so hasty on that, and maybe we'll keep that for a little bit. And for the sentimental saver, it can be like, maybe that can go, but we're going to let it sit for a minute and see if I can let it go, right? Yeah. And so you can both use the maybe box in a, one is like, let's slow down and not throw it away. And one is like, oh, I might be able to throw that away if I not even throw it away, give it to somebody, all of the things, but, let it go.
By having parameters of, your maybe box, this corner of the room or this actual box, or when you have a defined parameter, it from both sides of those personalities, it gets rid of the all or nothing mentality, the sentimental, not keeping it all, and the purger, we're not getting rid of everything. It can meet in that middle that works for both people because it's defined. Because
if you come along something that just you cannot make a decision about between the two of you, it's not worth it. If you start having friction over it, then everything stops. So it's worth it to just say, okay, we're not sure on that one, let's put it aside. Now, if you have 50 maybe boxes, then,
Well, then it gets to the point, okay, the maybe box is full and you're wanting to put this next thing in it. What are we taking out to make room? It can help with that decision process if it is a limit. We're just, this one bin is the maybe box, or these two shelves, wherever, that's the maybe.
Gotta
if
take
it's
something.
Full, one in, one out.
And I think sometimes when you do a full sweep of stuff quickly, you can get rid of quite a bit of things out of your life in the one first sweep. And it's the second sweep that might be a little bit harder, and you're taking a little bit more time on the decisions and leaning into the stories a little bit more and trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, number 5. The one I apparently am. Let's see. The Divide-and-Delegate Planner. Loves a good system, prefers to assign tasks, and thinks in checklists. Okay, yeah, this could be me for sure.
This is totally you.
Yes.
This is not me.
Yes. I do love a good system.
And a checklist.
And a checklist. And other people checking it.
And other people checking it off.
Okay, we're done. That's me. Yeah, so the strengths of this is someone who's organized, efficient, and action-oriented. And the challenges, definitely, I fall into these as well.
So you.
Can skip over emotional moments or bulldoze others. Sorry, others. Yes. Yeah. Just, I think that for me, being this type of person, it's just like, okay, if something needs to get done, let's get it done.
Yeah.
And you could tell me all the reasons why this is not good. I'm like, yep, that's it.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's get it done.
Let's do this.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing trait. Like, all of these have amazing traits, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has good traits and is thoughtful in their own way and, whatever. But I think that this one, if you get over the overwhelmed avoider, which you said you also felt like, if you got over that one, divide and delegate. I mean, make a list, make a plan. Everybody's going to do their piece. Everybody's going to, whatever. The sentimental person, has to shuffle through some of those sentimental things. The other person can do the garage. You can kind of get yourself, really get a lot of things done from the number 5 Divide and Delegate Planner.
Yeah, I think that, here on our tips list for this is to check in with others about emotional attachments and use your skills to lead but invite feedback, and build in pauses to reflect. And I think that if this is your personality, it is hard sometimes to wait for others to get on the plan. That's usually all in your own head that you haven't, fully shared, and, nobody else is looking at your checklist but you. And so your expectations are everybody's just like, yeah, let's get this done. Here's the deadline. So really just finding patience to wait on others and to set clear expectations so that you're not feeling let down if you're doing this together with someone else, and really just being on the same page. And also, I think from personal experience, you probably lean, if this is your personality, you lean towards biting off more than you can chew.
Yeah.
In the moment.
Yes, we can get it all done. Let's just, yes.
Yes. And so back to small steps to gain momentum is also a good tip for this. Your system and your checklist might be amazing, but you don't have to accomplish them all on day one for it to be a success.
Yeah, because I think you're going to have to slow down a little bit if you're working with the Someday Keeper or Sentimental Saver. You're going to have to slow that down a little bit. But the system of, hey, we are going in our new space, we are going to have room for, 2 Christmas boxes.
Yeah.
And so Sentimental Saver can pick whatever they want to put in those Christmas boxes, but that's how much space we have. And that's a system, right?
Yeah.
And so, those things can work together as long as everybody's feeling, up okay with the rules. Like, okay, Sentimental Saver knows we've got 2 boxes.
Yeah.
The delegator knows it might take, a little more time for the Sentimental Saver to figure out what goes in those boxes.
And I think that, back to a mixture of some of them are definitely going to overlap together, and the Divide and Delegate Planner probably leans towards the keeping practical items versus sentimental. So again, when you're working with a different personality, if you're saying, okay, we have 2 boxes for Christmas, at least part of one of those boxes needs to be open for whatever the sentimental person wants, even if it hasn't been out in 20 years or whatever.
It was their mom's,
yes.
angel that's broken.
Yes.
And,
so
somehow
you have to
save
some room for it's okay. It's just there because that's the legacy piece, or, that's important to, someone else involved in the process.
Right. So it's okay if you're downsizing with people who have different traits. I think just understanding the traits can help you avoid friction. Self-awareness, equals less stress, whether it's you or what they're doing. So don't worry if you don't share the same style. And if you're not sure what your style is, ask somebody else, because they'll know.
They'll tell you.
They'll tell you. But I also think if you look at what your parents were like, a lot of times that comes down. Like, I can still hear my mom saying, oh my gosh, but that's still good, as, I'm letting go of things. And then I have this pang of guilt that she kind of, put into me that was like, she was sentimental and she wanted to save things. And so I feel bad that I don't always have that. And that's okay. Don't feel bad. Like, you don't need to feel guilt about it.
Yeah. And I see, in knowing your mom and, everything you went through at the end, and, your mom's house, and then knowing you so well, I see those traits. They definitely, it's hereditary. I see the traits, I'm claiming are definitely very similar to how I would, see my mom, and, just looking at other people in my life, I could assign one of these to most of the people.
Yeah, so if you're not sure where you're at, ask the people around you. They're going to know. They're going to know.
Yeah, but understanding it does give you a better way to make your own plan that will work best for your personality, and not just feel like you're failing at the way someone else did it and you're not doing, because we have lots of clients that, are referred to us by friends that have already done it or whatever, and they just, person we're talking to just feels exhausted and like I don't know, they're just there and they're happy and it seemed so easy and I'm overwhelmed, and maybe it's just approaching it a little bit differently.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So follow and share our episode. If you know somebody who's downsizing and this would help, please follow us and share. That would be really helpful to us.
Yeah. If you need any resources, you can always find those on our website, downsizing-roadmap.com. And we would love it if you enjoy our podcast, if you would leave us a review.
Yeah. Tell us what style you are.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Visit us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.